Hi guys, so I was going to do a Friday favorites video and then there was this whole ridiculousness that happened with BookCon, so I decided to make a video about that instead because I don't think anyone on BookTube really knows about it, or at least no one seems to be talking about it, and I feel like it's something that needs to be talked about, so I'm making a video about it. Some background information: Book Expo America is this big industry related convention that happens every single year. Originally you had to be part of the industry, working in it somehow, to be able to attend the event. A couple of years ago they decided to open up the event to the general public. So on the last day you could buy a ticket and attend and see the different panels and do the signings and all of the fun stuff that's related to BEA. This year they decided to rebrand Power Readers Day into BookCon. The assumption being that they want to be able to make more money or appeal to the masses a little bit more than Power Readers Day did. They made BookCon its own separate thing, so it's not like you just get to attend the last day of BEA like everyone else. It's its own separate thing with separate panels and separate guests and separate autograph sessions and all of those different things. So the first problem that occurred with this whole thing was the fact that they announced that they were doing a Kidlit panel, which is basically, you know, children to young adult authors who would be on this panel, and the 4 authors that they picked were all white guys. It was very discouraging to see such a lack of diversity on a single panel, and I think after that happened, Book Expo America put up some tweet talking about how BookCon is committed to diversity or some crap line about that. And so I think after that people were just kind of waiting to see what would happen next. People assumed that they would have other panels that would be more diverse than the Kidlit panel, but then they announced their guest list this week, or at least the first 29 guests on their guest list. I don't know if they plan on having any more. And every single person on that guest list is white or a cat, which is, you know, one of the things that makes it slightly more infuriating, the fact that they have a cat on there before they have a single person of color on their entire list. They seem to have a pretty decent amount of women versus men. I didn't really count or anything like that, so I don't know exactly how it all breaks down, but if you scroll through really quickly you're not going to see a single dark-skinned person on that list. And seeing that happen is just so disappointing slash infuriating slash annoying. Like, I understand their desire to want to have quote-unquote big names at this thing to try to attract as many people as possible, but the fact that you released nearly 30 names and you couldn't come up with a single person of color to include on that list is appalling. It isn't that hard. Like, it really isn't. It's not like people of color authors don't exist. It's not like there aren't names out there, big names out there who can draw a crowd. And the fact that they did this either shows that they are just completely ignorant to the idea of diversity, which counteracts the previous statement that Book Expo America put out, or they are choosing that they don't care. Either way, it's not really okay. The list was released on Wednesday, I believe, and they haven't really said anything about it since. The official Book Expo America Twitter account put out another one of those crap tweets about being committed to diversity, but all of the things related to BookCon should go towards the BookCon Twitter, and the BookCon Twitter has been silent for 24 hours since I'm recording this, possibly longer by the time you're watching this. They've literally said nothing. Like, they're not replying to anyone, they're not posting any sort of scheduled promotional anything. They haven't apologized or said anything about it, which is even more annoying about this whole thing. Like, if you mess up, apologize for it. Don't just sit silently and hope that people forget about it and then you can move on from the situation, because one, people aren't going to forget about it, or at least I'm not going to forget about it. And secondly, just pretending like the problem doesn't exist doesn't make the problem go away. Luckily, there has been at least one other author who is in a position of privilege to actually speak out, and that is Rick Riordan. He tweeted about the Kidlit panel when that originally happened and basically said, you know, why is this a 4 white dudes panel, or they should have just called it a 4 white dudes panel. So that's at least nice, but I feel like otherwise people aren't really talking about this, and I find that really problematic and really disappointing. I feel like there was more of like a kerfluffle on Twitter when the Kidlit thing happened, when it was 4 white dudes, because basically every feminist out there took to their reins and made a fuss about the need for more representation from women. But now that it's mainly a color issue, I feel like there's no one out there, not no one. Book Riot has actually been really awesome about talking about these issues, and the people who work at Book Riot, if you follow any of them on Twitter, they have been tweeting about it nonstop. They wrote a couple articles about it, I will link to it down below, and they've actually said that Book Riot won't be covering anything related to BookCon, which makes me really very happy and proud to be a part of that website now, even more than I was before. But other than that, it doesn't seem like there are a lot of authors speaking out or people who could potentially make a difference making any comments about this whole situation. I don't know if people are trying to give BookCon and BEA the benefit of the doubt. They're hoping that they'll release more names that have better diversity in them. But at this point, if you can release 30 names and not a single one is non-white, that's a major problem that needs to be addressed. I saw a blog post related to this topic, and basically the blogger was saying that there's a very good chance that the people who are putting together BookCon just went through New York Times bestsellers and just picked authors from that list because they have the name recognition. So it's not fully BookCon's fault that this is happening, it's also on us. You guys know that I kind of agree with that sentiment, and it's why I've been making more of an effort to buy and read more books by authors of color. But I think that BookCon is in the position to make a difference. It's basically saying, you know, publishers aren't at fault for publishing authors of color because no one's buying those books. And while that might be true in a sense, in a very small sense, they're in the position to change what people are reading and what people are paying attention to. This world that we live in and the publishing world in and of itself is a very, very flawed world. You can't just be like, well, we live in a flawed world, so that's okay. We need to do things and to try to make a difference and to speak out when these things happen. There was a point in time where I was really considering and really trying to work at going to BEA and go to BookCon this year. I know that there's a booktuber BookCon thing meetup happening during that weekend and things like that, and I really wanted to try to go and it just didn't work out. I have some other things going on and it conflicted. But now that all of this has happened, I'm really glad that I'm not going, and I think that if I was going, I would try to get a refund. I don't know if they allow refunds or not. I'm really glad I didn't put any money towards this event. One thing that I'm also trying to do this year is to basically put my money where my mouth is and to watch TV shows that have more diverse casts, and if they don't, then I've kind of stopped watching them. I've also been making more of an effort to see movies in theaters that feature people of color or various diverse casts, and making more of an effort to use the little microphone that I have to bring more awareness to these awesome things that are happening that aren't getting the attention deserved by major outlets of any kind. And so I'm not saying don't go to BookCon, because that's your prerogative and there's a lot of really great people who will be there, and I'm sure, you know, a lot of people want to go see John Green and Cassandra Clare and Jodi Picoult and all of these other people who are going to be there. They're all great authors, and I'm sure if you're a fan of them you would want to meet them. But at the same time, don't just let BookCon get away with this. I feel like that makes it sound like they murdered someone. I feel like if you have the ability, if you're on Twitter, you know, tweet at them and say, you know, you're kind of disappointed that there isn't a single person of color on their list. Or if you're on Facebook, I'm sure they have a Facebook page. I kind of wish that there was some other big name authors who were using their positions of power to say something about this, but you know, I would say that the more people who speak up about this, the more likely there will be for change. And maybe there won't be change this year, but maybe in the future years that BookCon happens, there will be a diverse list of authors from the very beginning. You know, that's the dream. And it's sad that it has to be a dream at this point. So yeah, that's all I wanted to talk about today. Feel free to leave your comments about this whole situation down below if you have any. I don't know, I'm just like, stuff like this just makes me sad. It makes me sad because when I see stuff like this, it makes it look like I'm someone who wouldn't be welcome at this. They don't say that explicitly, obviously. They're not gonna be like, hey, you dark-skinned people, get out. But when you see that all the people who are on stage are white, it makes it hard to see the possibility of a non-white person being on that stage. Especially if you are, say, a writer who wants to make it in this industry and you are a person of color. That's really discouraging. Not that I am one of those people, but I would be so discouraged if I was. So yeah, that's basically it. I'm done ranting for today. Again, feel free to leave your comments down below. I will have links to a bunch of different articles talking about this whole situation that I found really interesting and really informative. A lot of them were from Book Riot because they're doing an A+ job of covering this situation. Again, you know, talk about this if you have the position to talk about it. Maybe just tweet at BookCon and say something about this if you can, or at least just ask them to make a comment in general and not just completely ignore the situation. So yeah, that's all I have for now, and thanks for watching.